Hello and welcome to another episode of the Full Force Weekly, brought to you by GeneralsJoes Reborn.com with me, Christopher McLeod AKA Diagnostic 80. For today's episode, I'm joined by the awesome Patrick Notpicard Stewart. In this regular video series, we round up all the week's news in the world of G.I. Joe. What is it, Pat?
It's the Full Force Weekly.
It's the Full Force Weekly, and it's not much to talk about this week, buddy.
Yeah, but we're still here. So we still love G.I. Joe, whether or not there's anything to talk about.
We still love G.I. Joe, whether you do or not. It's happening, guys, whether you want it or not. Just a couple of news items this week, but I don't know, that's usually worse for us, isn't it? It goes on for about, you can probably, this will be about a 3-hour job, I reckon.
Yeah, for sure. That's just how it works with us.
The fewer stories, the more gabbing we do.
I think that we just feel more relaxed to chat during the thing, and then it just goes on forever.
It's a full sense of security, and I'm kind of like, yeah, this will be quick. This will be like a 40-minute one. It won't take me very long at all. And then by the end of it's finished, I'm like, that was an hour and 30 minutes. What the hell happened? I'm hoping that either of us, I hope that we don't keep referencing character versions of figures, vehicles, all that kind of stuff, because it just means I have so much more to do. I'm just putting it out there. If you feel the need to reference a character, just stop and then carry on with something else. That's all I'm going to say.
So we're not going to do what's your favorite version of a new character? We're not going to sort out which one of us likes a specific other one other than Snake Eyes?
Not this time, and I'm not putting Snake Eyes up on screen right now either. It's not happening. I thought you were going to say
version 2 up, or version 3 up, or version 4 up.
I thought you were going to just start naming characters one after the other. We'll start in the A's. Airwave. Right. I've done it to myself. I'm not putting Airwave up. This is just going to be me and Pat on the screen, and you're just going to have to not have a visual.
Is there
aid.
an Airwave? I'm not sure. How do I know? Up on screen.
That's very true. I'll probably have to put all the versions up as well, considering I didn't specify. Right, mate. Let's get into the news, so that I've got even more to do now. And starting up with a news story that I went into a lot of detail with in the week on a live news burst. But guess what? We're going to do it even more now anyway, aren't we, Pat?
Yes.
I thought you were going to say it's the Full Force Weekly for a second.
I actually was scrolling down through the show notes and didn't hear what you said. It was like words. Is that right, Pat? Yes.
Explosion. In Mezco news, and earlier in the week, Mezco Toyz dropped pre-orders and a ton of product images for their next 112 collective figure, Snake Eyes. The images revealed what the Joe's Ninja Commando will look like in full, as well as his very cool weapons and accessories, and the added bonus of an articulated timber, albeit a silhouette, as they haven't finished him yet. As I said before, I reacted with a news burst live to talk about the news, which you can watch in full on our channel right now, but considering you're here, let's just get stuck in here. Pat, now that you can see the whole figure and what it comes with, what are your thoughts now?
This one's really nice. I have not gone in on any of the Mezcos yet at all, like G.I. Joe or otherwise. So I'm kind of wondering if it wouldn't be a good idea for me to hop in on this one.
Yeah, it's a good jumping on point, I guess. I was kind of very concerned early on about jumping onto pre-orders immediately, just because I was worried that some will sell out or be hard to get. But I feel like Destro and Roadblock are still actually quite readily available. You can probably pre-order them on some of the major sites like Entertainment Earth and Big Bad Toy Store and stuff like that as well. So I don't have that kind of same worry or pressure about these that I usually do. And I think, this would be a good one where you could kind of almost hold out a little bit for a character that you'd be really interested in, see what they're like, and if you really like them, I think you could probably be all right going back and picking a few up after the fact if you were into that kind of thing. Because obviously these are expensive, aren't they? We're talking this Snake Eyes is $112, I believe, which actually isn't bad. But when you consider it's a 112 scale, obviously there's more elements to it. Obviously, there's the highly articulated. They've got soft goods. They've got tons of accessories and stuff like that. There's a quality there, but it's still an expensive line, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's not something to. It's a good thing that these aren't coming out, 4 and 5 of them at a time. That's for sure. In order to just kind of separate out the spending, if you are into these, I'm kind of curious how the soft goods really works with a 6-inch figure, because that's one of the reasons why I gravitate more toward 3 3/4 and 12-inch. 6-inch is kind of like halfway in between those, is where it feels like it is. And soft goods really work well on 12-inch figures. We've seen plenty of 12-inch where they work wonderfully. And they don't really work that well unless it's like a cape or something that's going to be relatively large on 3 3/4.
Yeah.
So seeing it on 6-inch, it looks amazing for what size this thing is. Like whenever the images of the first ones popped up, it's easy to get a little confused, because 1/12 is 6-inch and 1/6 is 12-inch. So whenever you see 12, it's like, oh, this is a 12-inch figure. No, it's not. It's a 6-inch figure. That's why it's 1/12. So yeah, it's something that I really want to see in hand and in person, how well they really do with having those soft goods on a figure this size.
I have to agree with you. I think obviously that has a lot to do with the properties of the materials involved, isn't it? Like obviously the thick top that I'm wearing like right now obviously looks, it hangs a certain way, it looks a certain way compared to me as a human of that scale, the 1-to-1 scale. And then when you're talking about something that's much smaller, the material becomes thicker, becomes bigger, becomes more, doesn't hang the same way. Like, or some of those, like some of the early Black Series soft goods I was never really into on the Star Wars one. Some of the, like the robes, the kind of Jedi robes were always like a little bit off, weren't they? And when you go back to like 3 3/4 and like some of those early vinyl capes, obviously those are proper kind of like, rudimentary a little bit, just a little bit kind of like low,
Oh yeah,
simple and a bit basic, but yeah, like 12 inches is the way to go with soft goods. But I will say that some of Mezco's stuff, and I've got a Batman, which I talk about quite often when I talk about Mezco, and I've known multiple people that have got other figures, and I've had them in hand, I've seen them in hand, and they are spectacular. Obviously, they're using materials that make sense for that size as well, like that kind of like almost elasticated kind of what's the almost like kind of cycling shorts material when you're dealing with that kind of very thin kind of material. They use that a lot in the kind of like figure hugging tight stuff, and the spandex, I guess, that for that kind of style. But yeah, when it comes to the other aspects, I want to see these in hand. I want to see what they look like, how they kind of move, like all that kind of stuff, how they pose. This Snake Eyes, though, does look pretty cool. He's not as stocky as Roadblock and Destro, but there's still a bit of size to him, isn't there?
Yeah, I don't know how these compare to Classified. Like, if you get one of these, is it going to look like just a hyper-detailed Snake Eyes that is in scale with everybody else? Or is he going to be a little short or a little tall? Because we all know that whenever people say 6-inch figure, there's definitely a lot of wiggle room, and some of them not quite scaled to each other.
I find that when people say 1/18 now, because that seems to encompass 3 3/4 all the way up to like 4-inch to me. So,
yeah, and honestly, figures like Roadblock and Retaliation were pushing 5-inch.
Yep.
So it's like 3 3/4 to 5 inches. That's, if those were really humans, that's quite a difference in height. Not that those differences don't exist, though, because like you have the vintage collection Star Wars stuff, and one of the things that they've done is actually have different heights that match the actors playing things. So Princess Leia is shorter than the other characters.
Yeah.
It's wonderfully.
Yeah, I mean, the scale thing is kind of rough, isn't it? Because I think it's supposed to be like 1 inch per foot, and it's supposed to be one. So you're kind of basically saying that, a 6-inch figure would be 6 feet in height, effectively.
Yeah.
which, you know, that makes sense. That works. But I think a lot of companies, when they make figures, sometimes through like reasoning of why they're doing it, or sometimes through accidental processes, you know, like not realizing that there's a shrinkage that goes on with certain, you know, they could make something, they want to make something this big, but when it actually goes through the process and the plastic and all that kind of stuff they use, that has an effect on it. I know that those Sectors figures, they were really cool, that came out not too long ago. I think Zika, was it Zika or Fresh Monkey? I think it was Zika, wasn't it, that did Sectors?
I think so.
I can't remember.
So.
Apologies. Again, comments in the chat. Just let us know as well in there. It was one of those two companies. Anyway, the Sectors figures turned out really short. I'm not sure if that was done on purpose or if it was just, you know, and they're supposed to be 1/18 scale, but they are much, much smaller than most 1/18 figures. So yeah, I kind of, the scale thing is it's a bit of a minefield, isn't it? It's all over the place.
It is, but could you handle Snake Eyes being a little shorter if, you know, if these end up being shorter than Classified? I don't know. I'm sure some people actually have Mezco. I wonder if anyone's done a comparison of other Mezco brands with Classified, if there are any photos online of other things.
I'm sure they have, and I know for a fact that some people will have both, because when I did the Newsburst Live, we had a bunch of commenters that were big into Mezco, and they were like kind of effectively filling me in on a lot of information on that. So that's definitely one I'd like to see. If there are any, I think we'll see it in more when Destro comes out. I think we're going to see a lot of comparison images with him and the Classified figure. I just think that will happen like immediately, and we'll see that will be shared everywhere. Instagram, you know, all over the toy industry pages. We'll see all those, and that will be like a really good benchmark to see what we're dealing with. Not just in the quality of the figure, but in the look of the figure and how it kind of, looks with the display on. And because I mean, I know a lot of us have got Classified figures, and we're going to want them to kind of like, I don't know. It'll be nice that they could operate in a similar space, but are you that's actually a good question. Are you hoping, for example, having a Destro at Classified scale, are you hoping to have the two side by side look similar enough that it just looks like a very cool, more updated version of the Classified figure? Or do you want to see something completely different?
Oh, I would want them to be a completely different figure. I wouldn't want Mezco to just be making the same thing as Classified, only with soft goods. Yeah. The soft goods is certainly an interesting thing that they're managing to pull off, because the nice thing about it is that it's hiding those joints.
Yeah.
You know, well hidden with it. That's kind of the point. I'm really curious even how it holds up to multiple posing. Like after you posed it 50 times, do any of those fabric joints start to fray? Do any of them start to become untucked? You know, how I don't know. I'm curious in the comments if anybody has one, you know, to let us know what to expect with these. You know, how delicate are they? If something does become undone, how easy is it to put back? If I had both Destros, as you said, next to each other, I would certainly hope that they would look like two different designs as far as what they should be, because the Classified Destro is a unique thing anyway. I don't expect to see that become the definitive Destro from here on out. A lot of them are all based on the original Destro. You know, Classified Destro is certainly based on the 1980
vintage, yeah.
And so is the Mezco one. So, I think they should have some similarities, but ultimately be different. But the thing that I'm hoping is the height is the same, because it's just not going to be fun. And I mean, I guess this is the same thing whenever we're talking about the 4-inch figures that are coming from Haya.
Yeah.
You know, next to the existing figures of that same claimed scale, I guess we should say. Because if they're consistently a different height, they're probably technically a different scale, but roughly they fit into 4-inch, and these are roughly going to fit into 1/12 or 6-inch.
Yeah, it makes me more interested on the higher toy front as well, definitely, because I want to see what the differences are there. I mean, obviously for the price point, you want to see a different figure, but I'm kind of interested to see how that Destro in Mezco would look next to all the other characters, like if it stands out too much, or if and I don't know, I just have a feeling when I look at that Destro figure, I feel like he's going to be bigger. He's definitely going to be wider. I just have a funny feeling he'll be taller than the classified figure, but I guess we'll see very soon. Because
I feel that way too.
Yeah.
And do you feel that the Mezco should all be the same size as each other, or there should be a little bit of a difference? Roadblock and Duke.
I think they should be scaled, and if they're going to be scaled, then they're going to be different heights and they're going to be different sizes. So Roadblock should be, you should be much bigger frame than Snake Eyes, and I feel like they should work with a couple of different bodies as opposed to just one basic kind of thing that everyone looks, because you don't really want them to look the same. This isn't like Master of the Universe vintage, is it? Like this. You don't want them all literally huge. Like they use the same body there for the Baroness that they use for Roadblock. That would be... Actually, I want to see that. Can we get that done, Mezco, next? Yep, thanks. In terms of the Snake Eyes figure, though, were you excited at least to see that Timber's going to be involved in that?
Yes, because whenever they showed which version of Snake Eyes it was, and I didn't see Timber, it felt like a weird omission. And I'm wondering if there's also other gear or anything else that may be shown later, because looking through these pictures, I hate to bring up a version.
Version 3. I know what you're going to say.
But he has the butterfly knives from version 3.
Well, and the even cooler...
The 3-part staff.
Yeah.
So he definitely has some of the equipment from version 3. And I don't see them doing a version 3 Snake Eyes at any point for Mezco. That just doesn't...
You say that.
Snake Eyes. Probably version 3 Snake Eyes would be... Multiple versions of Snake Eyes probably are something that could sell. So you're right, they could. Just the fact that they're including his accessories here...
Hints that they might not, actually. Yeah, doesn't it? If they're throwing the accessories in, it could just be an homage to it. But that doesn't necessarily... Yeah, you're right. Like, it could be... This is the only version 3 you're going to get, and it's going to be, through a couple of weapons, Yeah,
and it's... his gear isn't quite the same. I don't know that you would be able to put those butterfly swords on his chest or grenades on his biceps, but it would look different anyway. But having a head that would be swappable would definitely go a long way to it as that version of the figure.
I do like they've included a couple of really interesting like throwing hand attachments as well, where you've got like 3 ninja stars like shuriken kind of like going off in different directions, and they attach to the hand with like a shockwave kind of thing, like a comic shockwave type style thing. And they've also done it with, I think, a grenade, which I think is quite interesting. I like those. I think as display options they could look kind of cool, especially if you've got them in a really awesome pose. Like throwing those ninja stars could look pretty dope. But the weapons and the accessories are very interesting indeed. We've already obviously mentioned that version 3 Snake Eyes. That's something I went over when I did the live. And we discussed that of like, I'm really glad that they threw those in, because that the 3-point staff thing is wicked. And also, I'd forgotten the name of it. I forget the name of it now as well. And everyone came in the chat and told me what the actual name is. And I can't remember it. It's a very long name, like Sensetsukan or something like that.
I've looked up the name of that thing so many times. As a kid, I went with the name from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles role-playing game.
Yes.
Because that was the source that I had, and that apparently isn't right.
It's called a Sansechikon. That's what it's called. Sansetsukon. So that's what I will call it from now on, even though I said that last time on the live and forgot it. Sansechikon is the name. Sansetsukon. 3-section staff. What was it called on the Turtles? Because I think that was the one I ended up thinking it was called as well.
It was like it was a 3-part name. It was Sa, and then I don't know how to pronounce the second part of it anyway. I think it was TJAT. I think is the way that they spelled it. like it wasn't that book wasn't actually reference material to what existed already in the comic. They actually introduced new characters intended for the role playing game, and they introduced different. I feel like I should say accessories. They're not accessories. They don't go with a figure. Different weapons and things like that. So it was a great book.
I actually have that, by the way. That core playing rule book.
One.
Yeah, I remember because I this is one of those things I completely forgot. It's the one with Leonardo on the front with the swords across, isn't it? With the red bandana and the kind of Casey Jones, Shredder, and Splinter in the foreground, and the whole team like in front of him with the cityscape. Yeah, I got that and never really got into it because it was a role playing game. Do you know what I mean? I liked having it as the part of the collection kind of thing. I remember picking that up. Sorry, I know we're going on a bit of a tangent here. I remember picking that up when I first found out there were graphic novels of the Turtles comics after the fact. Because obviously my introduction to Turtles was in '89 when it started kind of like coming over from the US as a force to be reckoned with. The cartoon was probably my proper introduction. But we had there was a couple of news stories in the paper. And I remember reading it about this new fad that's taking over the United States. And yeah, it would have been late 80s. And then I think going into the 90s, I found these graphic novels in a Waterstones bookshop. And Mom bought them for me, not realizing they weren't for kids. Like the original comics are very adult. Not not that bad, but there's the odd kind of, maybe there was some curse words in there, but nothing too bad. But then there's a lot of violence, a lot of sword cutting and blood and decapitation and all sorts of stuff. So Mum had no idea, and I never told her. Sorry, Mum. So you know now. Actually, no, she's heard this story before because I've said this on the show before, and she'll watch this. I guarantee it, and she'll comment and say, "How dare you tell everyone how bad a mother I was?" But yeah, she wasn't. She was the best. Is the best. She is the best. So yes, coming back to Snake Eyes, shall we? The Sunsetchicon. I'm so glad that it is included with this figure because it's such a cool weapon anyway. And if they're not going to do a version 3, then I'm glad that we could get it this way.
Yeah, for sure. And if you're going to add accessories to Snake Eyes, just to kind of give him a larger complement of accessories, why wouldn't you dip into some of the things that came with later versions of the figure?
Like a giant multicolored rocket launcher with a rope on
attached to a backpack that somehow in the art has the string coming out of the middle of the launcher, even though the toy doesn't do that.
Stop trying to crap on my version of Snake Eyes. I'm fully aware of the shortcomings in those areas. But that's Snake Eyes. The trench knives are an interesting one. You mentioned there that they're obviously not going to be able to fit on the chest in the same way, but I could see them maybe releasing more kind of things in the future, not necessarily like another figure, but maybe another figure that had something that allowed trench knives to sit on the chest, and then you could put it on that Snake Eyes, almost like build a different version, if you will.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. I mean, that was obviously the appeal of G.I. Joe originally in 12-inch. So if you could take that off and put something else on, that's cool. Everything just looks so tight at $120-some after tax. I don't know how much I would really want to be changing things out.
Never get the soft good back on again. Yeah, totally.
The photography they've taken. There's only one thing on this that I'm kind of about.
Yeah.
It's great that they've matched the photography to existing photos of Snake Eyes. I think that's really cool.
Like the one where he's got the gun by his side, like the face on comic cover kind of style.
From the comic cover. Yeah, I think this one. Isn't this one the Rise of Cobra? I could swear it's the Rise of Cobra pose where he has, where he's shooting this direction, but then has the sword this way.
Yeah, that sounds like Rise of Cobra. That sounds like Ray Park. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like a Ray Park pose.
Yeah, they were definitely throwing some homages in there in the product photography for sure. I love that. That I think it was issue 53 really stood out to me when he's got the kind of the gun, really nice touch.
The one thing though that I'm not crazy about is the Arashikage logo on his arm of his outfit.
Funny you should say that. That was brought up in the live I did. A lot of people were a little bit against that, and they asked me what were my thoughts about it, and I kind of said, well, I'm not that fussed. I understand, like obviously people were saying it should be a secret, it should be a tattoo, and you should be covered up. And I was thinking, well, maybe we're just at that stage with this particular figure, this particular line, where they're coming at it from a that's long in the past kind of scenario. That was just my kind of thought process on it, but it wasn't something that bothered me necessarily. I can see it bothers you very greatly.
Yeah, I don't think it fits with the character. At what point, does he go from, hey, this is my past, I'm moving on from my ninja stuff, I still have those skills, but here I am, my life is now with the G.I. Joe team, which is where he is in 82, to, hey, could somebody please sew this onto the side of my outfit?
He does it all himself.
Give me an iron-on. Like, at what point does it make sense for that?
He went on Etsy while he was on maneuvers somewhere, and he just typed in I Ching in red, and he threw it up there on an Etsy thing, and someone did it for him, sent it to him, and then he patched it on himself. That's how he did it. I always had this funny thing in my head of all of the Cobra and G.I. Joe having these huge creative departments that deal with all the branding and all of the uniforms and all of that kind of stuff.
Maybe that's what it is. Maybe Snake Eyes doesn't like the G.I. Joe brand. The person who in universe is in charge of the brand.
Exactly.
Just I'm going to do the Arashikage thing instead and not put G.I. Joe on my uniform. I'm the Arashikage. And the G.I. Joe classified one's I'm putting it on my belt. It's going to be on my sword. It's going to be
on my chest. It's going to
place on that. It looks like he just went to the Arashikage version of a Disney shop where it's just everywhere. He's gone to a theme park and has just completely decked himself out in that stuff.
And we all know only Cobra Commander went to the Disney store to get his top.
Oh yeah, because it's Mickey Mouse.
There you go. I thought you'd catch it quicker than that, and also I didn't think you'd need to explain it to yourself to make sense. So I'm impressed there, Pat. That was good. The best jokes are the ones where that happens.
Somebody doesn't tell the delivery. Somebody doesn't explain the joke.
Exactly. No, that's amazing. Yeah, so I personally don't have that much of an issue with it because at this point I've seen the Arashikage branding on everything so far. It's kind of I don't even really notice it anymore.
I think that it just needs to become a standard, though. It really is detrimental to the character every time another version of it comes out, with that being the standard way of doing things. Yeah, it's a really cool logo, but the excitement of Snake Eyes in the original story wasn't having the entire story told to us right away. It was the fact that it was hinted at and kind of drawn out, and you were getting it piece by piece, and that the mystery of it was super exciting. So just putting it right on there, no, I don't like it.
I will also probably say that it's probably been done as well for a little color break on, just in terms of an aesthetic. Sure. And yeah, again, you just mentioned it there. It looks nice. It's just a nice looking, bright thing to maybe stick on a otherwise very black figure. And I'm not saying that I agree with that. I'm just saying that that's probably their point of view and why it was added. And also because obviously the Arashikage has such obviously it's him, it's part of his like you said, his history. So it kind of, from their perspective, it probably just feels like that should happen on this character. And that might be a lack of knowledge of the reasoning behind the Arashikage symbolism with Snake Eyes. We had this conversation as well in the live as to when it first happened. And I was half convinced it came slightly before Ray Park and the Rise of Cobra, but it seemed to be the general consensus that Rise of Cobra was the first time the Arashikage symbol found its way on the exterior, but it did happen before, did it, Pat?
No, Valor versus Venom had done it already.
That's what I was thinking of. Okay, so I was right to say that. So, okay, cool. So yeah, Valor versus Venom started it, and it's happened pretty much ever since.
Actually, Valor versus Venom had done it, but it appeared in the Devil's Due comics even prior to that.
Fantastic.
So it was a Devil's Due thing.
Awesome. Okay, that's even better. Okay, well there you go. For any of those of you guys who were watching on the live last in the week who thought it was Ray Park that started that, well, not Ray Park, but the Snake Eyes from Rise of Cobra. It was in fact before that. Like I said, I just didn't remember when it happened. Anyway, I like being right, or half right in that case. Right, that's Snake Eyes, Mezco. We've managed to get a lot out of that one, so we have completely done what we always do in these situations. There's not much else to really go to talk about there. We've covered Snake Eyes pretty well.
We could just talk about a whole bunch of other versions so that you have to find pictures.
Version 5, 6. Yeah, forget that. It ain't happening. Ain't happening. Let's move on to the next one quickly before Pat churns out a ton of different characters just to kill me. And that is in Marvel, a Real American Hero news. On Wednesday, the Marvel G.I. Joe, a Real American Hero comic issue 1 celebrated its 40th anniversary. God, that makes me feel old. The comic hit newsstands on the 2nd of March 1982 and was a big hit with kids all over the USA and eventually the rest of the world. The opening issue focused on an operation to rescue Dr. Adele Burkhart from the clutches of Cobra and introduced us to Hawk, Duke, Scarlet, Rock'n'Roll, Breaker, Clutch, Zap, Short Fuse, Stalker, Snake Eyes, Stealer, Flash, Grunt, Grand Slam, and not forgetting Cobra Commander, Cobra Troopers, and the Baroness, of course. Yes, I realise what I've done, Pat. It was the true beginning of the lore created by Larry Hama for what would become something extremely huge and meaningful to all of us fans. Pat, let's talk about this with a bit of with our nostalgia hats on. What was it like? What was that feeling like for you when you first read this comic? And it doesn't have to be that it was on the day, because I'm not entirely convinced you got it on the first time round, did you?
No. My first exposure to G.I. Joe, the comic book, was issue number 3. I remember it well. I was at my great-grandmother's house, which was not far from an actual town. And we walked up the street, and there was a newsstand, like a store that sold newspapers and tiny convenience store, basically. Before really they were called convenience stores.
An inconvenience store.
Sure. And in the back, they had comics, and I want to say that I had already gotten my Cobra Trooper for my birthday.
Yeah.
And so issue number 3 was there on the newsstands, and I picked that up and, looked through it and really loved the robot. Certainly the Cobra robot in issue number 3. That's going to be an action figure, right?
Definitely for Super 7.
Sure. We'll see whenever that one comes out.
I would love to see them do that in the, like the big super, what do they call it? The super robot line.
I know what you're talking about.
I forget what it's called, though. But yeah, like they did the big Battle Android Trooper. That is something they could definitely do there.
Yeah, for sure. Honestly, even just 1 in 6 inches would be great to go along with 4-inch figures. I think that would be wonderful. I've wanted one of those for a long time. It's one of the ones that I've, daydreamed how to customize it multiple times. But issue number 1 of the comic book, I actually didn't get exposed to until Christmas of '82, which all this stuff happened so fast, back to back anyway. But
yeah.
A child, it seemed like, at least I think it was Christmas of '82, unless it was Christmas of '83. Somebody will have to tell me when the Treasury edition came out. I would think that came out '82.
I'm. Do you know what? I can't even remember when I read the first issue, because again, it wasn't on the day. I had read and was into the Action Force comics way before I really knew what was going on with G.I. Joe. And even though they reprinted Hama, a Real American Hero strips in the back of some of those comics, they didn't all they were never really in full, and they were never really like, never they seem to kind of jump around all over the place. We didn't see issue 1 reprinted in the Action Force comics, so it would definitely have been when they did a re-release, and it kind of made it, when they were doing like the Treasury edition, but like probably more like an anniversary edition is probably when I read the first issue, or when I got the combined graphic novels, or the trades combined for the Marvel run, because it was a long time before I got into the full Marvel run of comics, and I was kind of like picking them up all over the place from like little secondhand stores where people had left, just dumped a load of their comics behind. And I remember getting loads of G.I. Joe comics from it was like a banana. It was like a secondhand store in Cambridge once, and I got like a whole load of it. Literally, almost completed the run for me. The rest I managed to pick up in the States on little trips here and there, and managed to complete an entire run, of physical comics of the Marvel run over a period of time. So I couldn't tell you when I read the first one. I just remember when I read it, I'd already read so many other stories that I don't think it didn't have the same impact to me as it would have done having read it for the first time.
Yeah, I definitely read have you seen the Treasury edition? The larger book?
Yeah. I have it, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that was the first one that I read. That was the first time I read issue number 1 was through there. And to be honest, as a kid, I didn't understand that was a reprint of a standard comic. I thought that for the release of G.I. Joe, to get your attention, that they just released it in a larger format. That's what I thought as a kid. I didn't actually find out until like 88 or the late 80s.
Yeah.
That there was a standard size G.I. Joe issue number 1. And then by the time that I signed up for the subscription, my first issue that I received in my G.I. Joe subscription was G.I. Joe issue number 21.
Awesome. Good one.
Yeah, that was the first thing that showed up.
Read it in 20 seconds and put it down.
No, I did not put it down. I think the first time I got it, at least 3 times through.
Oh, yeah, man. I mean, I can go back to when I was a kid, and I would be like sitting on my floor in my bedroom. I'd have all of the comics that had already come out at that point, like kind of like in a little pile, and I'd have the new one there, and I would like go through it like fine-tooth comb, reading every single section of it, looking at every single image, studying every aspect of it, front to back, and again, and then I'd go through the whole lot that I'd already had again, and I'd read all that, because we had time on our hands back then and we didn't have the internet. So it was just rereading that stuff over and over again. The bios, all of the stuff, I know you obviously had Order of Battle, and you had all those kind of issues, didn't you? But we would have those kind of like full page intelligence profiles, and I would just read those like over and over again, like even though they were completely different to the American ones for the most part. Loved that kind of stuff, man. So I totally know what you're saying. They would be like hanging on by a thread, some of them, like because they were just constantly used.
Yeah, my issue number 3, that first one I picked up, as well as the Treasury number 1, both of those books are relatively destroyed at this point.
The dust now.
Yeah.
Amazing. But yeah, 40 years, mate. Do you feel? I mean, do you feel that it's been 40 years?
I don't feel like I've been around for 40 years.
Same.
So it's definitely a weird feeling to realize that this thing from my childhood has hit 40.
4 decades.
Yeah, and then the interesting thing to think about is what was 40 years prior to that. Like what was 40 years old whenever G.I. Joe was new. In order to put this in perspective, you're dealing with like
World War II for a start.
1942.
Yeah.
So I mean, as far as comic characters go, what was was Batman like 3 years old at that point?
I think it was mainly propaganda posters at that point, wasn't it? That people were reading.
I'm sure. But it still is just like, it really puts things in perspective how old G.I. Joe is now. Because if you were a kid, Batman, that seemed like it was, ages ago that character, like, well, he existed forever. George Washington knew about Batman, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
I know what you're saying. Yeah.
Cavemen wrote about Batman. It's just Batman was around forever. But, at this point, we're not that far from being as far from G.I. Joe. Well, to be fair, I mean, G.I. Joe was from the 60s.
Yep, exactly.
Talking about the G.I. Joe comic book, we're almost as far from whenever that originated as Batman was whenever G.I. Joe originated. So it's a weird thing. Almost, not quite.
Makes me sad.
Very weird.
It just it just boggles my mind because I certainly don't feel it. I don't feel it in my body, and I certainly don't feel it in my mind. It might come across that way, but I don't. When I think of when my dad was 40, and it doesn't feel, it just doesn't feel the same at all. And I'm sure he was going through that at the same time as well, when he was 40. But yeah, probably wasn't talking about G.I. Joe like we are though. Anyway, 40th anniversary. My goodness, happy birthday to the comic that started it all for us, in a sense. For our enjoyment of the brand. And I say that like I'm kind of giving the 12-inch line not enough respect there, because obviously I was a big Action Man fan and was fully aware of that and really enjoyed it. But I think because I was so young that as soon as this new era appeared, that took all my focus. And and I feel like we're probably going to be this way, aren't we, in about 10 more years, when we're like thinking about the 4-inch product, Pat, and all of these 6-inch guys. I suppose we're there now, aren't we? Really, we're kind of almost there now.
Yeah, that's maybe. I mean, I feel old.
Yeah,
it makes me feel old. This is the Feel Old episode of Full Force Weekly.
I didn't think we'd be talking about how old we were today. Anyway, that is the news of the G.I. Joe issue 1, Marvel, A Real American Hero, turning 40 years old this week. Big shout out to Larry Hama and the rest of the creative team that worked absolute wonders on that comic for a huge amount of time, and still are, which is incredible. Larry and a new creative team, of course, but. Just it blows my mind that it's still going as well. Like I know we had a little break in between, but the fact that in it, I know it's not Marvel, but the fact that storyline to this day continues is testament to just how awesome it was in the first place. So big shout out to everyone involved, and that is A Real American Hero news. Right then, Pat, let's get stuck in to our shout-outs. Hey there guys, just wanted to let you know about an app that I've been helping to develop for a few years now called Hoarder. But what is Hoarder, I hear you scream? Well, a number of years ago I discussed a project with a good friend of mine and now co-owner/developer about an app that could help collectors of all shapes and sizes. I'm talking about the shapes and sizes of the collections really, but also people. The app would be a place where you could share your new items, build collections and sub-collections, or just browse the feed to see cool things. Well, we made it. We tested it for a number of years, and now it's out there for you to enjoy on iOS or Android devices. You can upload a single item at a time at your own pace and slowly build your collections. You can post status updates that could be related to your collections, like getting a delivery or posting a scene in which you can tag items in that image if you've uploaded them in the past. You can add tags to your items in order to easily search for and find them, and of course to add them into your respective collections. You can like posts, comment on them, or start a conversation with a fellow collector, directly message users you follow, and even add items you see on your feed to your want list. If you prefer to use your computer or laptop, have no fear, you can use the website browser version and even utilise the awesome inventory option, allowing any user to change certain details, add notes, upload bulk items from spreadsheet files and download a CSV of your entire itemised collection. We made this app for collectors and we hope that you enjoy using it as much as we enjoyed creating it. Now get to hoarding. Right, mate, you can go first on this one. What are, or who are, and what is your shout-outs for this week?
Shout out to Philip, of course.
Hey.
He helped me get that last articulated points up just under the wire. We want to do one a month at least, and I barely got it done in time. So I appreciate his help there. But other than that, that's about it. Shout out to my terrible internet company, not because I'm happy with them, because I'm angry with them. Because even now I'm getting skipping while we're talking. I don't know if you're having that, but
yeah, there's been a few issues, but it's for the most part it's been all right. I think we can get away with it on this one. I don't think you're gonna. When you did skip, it kind of caught up with yourself a little bit, so it's fine. But yeah, I know what you're saying, mate.
Yeah, same here.
Wi-Fi sucks sometimes.
Yeah. I've just had technical issues. Like the letter O button is still not working on my laptop. So shout out to myself for doing my own tech support this week.
Exactly. I will shout you out as well for that episode of Articulated Points. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. Link in the description. It's a really, really fun one on that droid pack from, is it Galaxy's Edge, is it called?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
The Galaxy's Edge Star Wars kind of freaking amazing thing that I want to do so bad. And also, one thing that I had no idea they were doing that Phil showed us on that particular episode live were the mystery boxes, which are just the cutest things I've ever seen in my life. The fact that the crate itself acts as a little stand for the figure is just perfect. So and
you can fill the wall of them. You know, if you get multiple ones, you could actually. It's a really good dio piece.
Exactly. That needs to happen more. And another shout out while we're here talking about cool dio pieces is that new Transformers playset micro machines things that have been showing up. Oh my god, those things are great. Really remind me of the little mini sets you'd get back in the day for micro machines that would like fold in half. You could put all the pieces inside carry them around with you. Love those sets. So that Transformer set is amazing. But the droid mystery crates are just the best.
Yeah, it makes me wish that there was that more often there were toys where the package became a pretty significant backdrop or miniature playset or something that you could really use. Like I think that we were talking about that in relation to G.I. Joe already. Did we talk about that last week?
Yeah, we talked. We talked about that Sigma
weapons
6
crate.
Oh, the Sigma 6 weapons crates are some of my favorite things in packaging. That was such a great idea, and they were so good as well. Like the fact that the foam inserts, could be used inside them so well. And like I would always like because I was like keeping all of the information that it came with. So the paper would go in first, then the foam insert to kind of hold the paper in place. Yeah. And then all of the weapons would go in, and then you do the same on the other side. And sometimes sometimes it would be the case where you could put the whole figure in and everything could go in there and you could just close everything up and have it in the crate, which was great for when I bought those in the States and then had to travel back with them, because I could just pop them in the crates, all their pieces and everything, and they just stacked up nicely in the bag, packed them with clothes around them, and it was off we went, no worries. So loved the packaging on Sigma 6. It was incredible.
Yeah, I'm sure that was a significant addition to the cost of packaging.
Oh, no doubt. Because there's also plastic, foam, and then obviously more plastic for the actual crates too. So
and they even went the length, like inside the package, there were the handles for the outside of the crate, so the figure could carry the crate.
A little fold down. Oh my god!
Yeah,
so much went into it, and they were brilliant. Sigma 6 doesn't get enough love. I know we joke about it when Justin comes on and he has to mention Sigma 6. Shout out to Justin Bell for not mentioning Sigma 6 on this episode and still getting Sigma 6 out somehow. But it doesn't get enough props because it was really ahead of its time. And yeah, you could say like, the designs were a little bit kind of stylized, but it was a different thing and it was a different beast. And I just think it was beautifully done. So wicked designs as well. The designs were fantastic. I wasn't a massive fan of the cartoon of like that's a little, I don't know. It's an acquired taste, I'll say, but the actual figures and the toys were just outstanding.
Yeah, and there's another toy line where it was a 6-inch roughly toy line, and it had soft goods.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they incorporated them though through being kind of stylized. Like the baggy pants fit with the style of the figure because a lot of things were exaggerated anyway.
Absolutely. And yeah, those baggy pants are dope. When I first started collecting those, I would only get Snake Eyes figures, and it still was really difficult to keep up because he had a few versions that I'm not going to mention on the show because it'll cause me more issues in flashing images up. Don't say anything, Pat. Don't say anything.
Yeah, I didn't get all of Sigma 6. I was not in a position to just buy one of everything, so I had to pick and choose. So I still don't have all of those, but I've gotten a few of them. Some of the ones that I didn't get, I really regret passing on.
The reason we were talking about that was because of the Viper pack and the fact that Lenny mentioned that they're going to be doing that with the classified boxes going forward. They're going to have
that's right. I couldn't remember why we were talking about
in
it.
Little cardboard crates, aren't they? Which I think is a great idea because the more Dio pieces you can get, the better. Because it makes so much difference. If you got like a little pod, kind of display little pod, like an IKEA bookshelf, for example, all you got to do is dot a few little things, 1/6 things around, and all of a sudden your display looks incredible. Like I've got a couple of, obviously the Assembly Required, Brian Sowers, the shows and everything that Brian does, who does our graphics. He did amazing, like little cardboard crates for snake armor and other little kind of custom exclusives for the show. And the cardboard crates I actually use for my displays because they just look really cute. So anything that Hasbro could do to facilitate that, I'm all for, because it makes such a difference that they're interacting with something, even if it's something as simple as that.
Yeah, not to mention more things you'll have to come up with a picture for, but the Studio Series Transformers come with like a backdrop, and they really go the extra mile since they've been trying to eliminate plastic, and now they're tying the figure to that backdrop in order to make up for it. You get 2 of it in each package.
Insane.
But it occurred to me that, if they were to do something like that with G.I. Joe, couldn't they just, instead of, I don't want a whole bunch of cardboard accessories, but including something that can work as a dio, whether or not it's a backdrop or a crate that you would actually assemble, I think that could be cool. I don't know if those accessories, if those weapons packs are going to look great along with the figures, or if it's just supposed to emulate the feeling of a crate, and then we can keep our accessories in them. And I'm not sure what the goal is there.
I think he mentioned that there was an aspect of dio building there too. So I've got a feeling that they'll look cool, and they'll also have a little practical application as well.
Okay. I couldn't remember if that was us. If that was wishful thinking,
or speculating. Yeah. Wishful speculating, as I like to call it.
Right.
I am excited to see how that turns out, and looking forward to seeing what we actually get with them, because I think there was a few missed opportunities with, especially like the big sets like the Baroness and the Bike and Breaker and the Ram Cycle, where you can take that cardboard out and you've got like that gorgeous art with the logo on it, and it looks really nice, but it's not necessarily a backdrop for a display necessarily, because it's it's all blue or it's all red, and it just has the kind of the logo on it, so it's not like a natural background. Imagine if they printed on the reverse of that and you just flip it around and it's like a backdrop, like an actual setting that you could have the vehicle and the figure standing but in front of, so you could take a couple of pictures of it. I just think it'd be, there's a few missed opportunities there, I think, in terms of something very simple and very easy to execute as well. Maybe they will going forward. Maybe we'll see more of that kind of stuff. Added value is what I'm getting at there with the packaging, but we'll see. Is that all your shout outs, buddy? Did you get anything in?
Yep, that's it. Did I get anything in? Well, I got in. No, well, it's Transformers. It's
okay. What'd you get? I'm interested.
I got in another one of these because I have this obsession with this era of Transformers. Not actually the universe ones, but the European release. That I had that one catalog of Transformers that it ended in the States, and then a friend of mine who had lived in England actually sent me a catalog that showed me that no, Transformers in the world still are happening, and I've obsessed about those ever since.
Amazing.
But when they've re-released the Skyquake mold twice now in other tooling as Starscream and as King Atlas here, they've not included all the accessories. And the problem is it's just one gun that he would come with, which is like a missile launcher. And then the missiles, it's like they short you on the missiles. Skyquake came with 15 missiles. Starscream came with, I want to say like 8.
Yeah.
And King Atlas came with 6. It's like each time they keep on lowering it. So me being and there's spots for the missiles too. It's not like they're just missiles that you set aside as with some of the 1984 Transformers. These actually go on the toy in multiple places.
Yeah.
And you kind of need them to make it look complete. And then not only that, but then they release other characters that actually have spots where those same missiles go on. And those re-releases came with 0 missiles. So I'm fixed on buying enough of those missiles to just outfit everything. One of the things I got in this week was somebody a couple months back was selling just the accessories, just the missiles for like $20. So I bought that. And then this one was like 30 shipped. So it's like, yeah, if I were to price them out at like $5 a piece and be buying them, just partsed out like that, it's probably just cheaper to look for a cheap version of the toy and rebuy it. And then at some point I can look at the thing and feel like it's finally complete. I've become obsessed about those molds because my love for them from getting that European catalog, and then all the reuses of it. It's weird. That's how I.
Mate, it's totally fine. You're talking to the right people about weird, odd obsessions, aren't you? It's not like, you're not the weird guy on this in this situation. It's all good.
There's probably one person watching who goes, "Oh, sweet! I've always wanted to see them with all the missiles on them."
And you'll have to, when you get to that point, you'll have to show us as well.
Yeah, but the problem is the gun, because those guns they're made of gold plastic. They shatter so easily, and gold isn't going to work with this anyway. So I'm going to have to come up with some sort of solution, whether it's a casting.
I was going to say,
a repair and repaint. I'm going to have to come up with some kind of solution for the gun. Because honestly, the sad thing is, even broken, I can't get those guns under $20.
Eesh.
Which is crazy to spend $20 on something that's broken.
Yeah. Which we've
not. I haven't done that.
I'm pretty sure we've all done that. Have you not done that before?
Well, sure. If it's larger and I'm convinced I can repair it, yeah, I have.
I think we spent something like $300 on a Terradrome. No, it wasn't that much. It was like 100 and something bucks on an old Terradrome. It was the only real broken pieces were the little connectors on the doors that fall down.
Oh, okay.
So I think the clasp might have been broken, but then the tabs that lock in the actual door, and then obviously it can go up and down. Some of those were broken, but for the most part, it's in good condition-ish. But that was a while back, and we got that because Kate wanted to do a Red Shadows Terradrome custom. So we'll see if we ever get to that. Ever, probably not though. Speaking of Kate, shout out to the family and my wonderful wife, of course, and Phoebe, who's with me today. Kate's at work at the moment, and it's just me and Phoebe's in at the moment. So shout out to Phoebe's as well. And to Brian Sauer for the amazing graphics that we always have with him. I'm thinking we're gonna have to be switching from winter to spring soon, aren't we? So we're probably gonna have to change the graphics up again. Sorry, Brian. Just let you know now on the show. Even I'll send you a message afterwards. Big shout out to Skeletron and Grindstone Toys for revealing more images of their 3 3/4 retro O-ring figure. Great 3D.
I should have shouted out that. Yeah, you got me on the shout outs.
Great 3D sculpt work by Marco Byrne again, and I'm really loving that deco mock-up. The backer kit is still up if you want to check that out in the links in the description. How about that, Pat? It's a cool figure, isn't it, that one?
Yeah, it does look good. I'm really excited for the grindstone stuff because I think I've expressed how much I like the O-ring style figures.
Never really mentioned it.
Really, I haven't.
No, you've never really mentioned all the characters and their different versions.
Yeah, and their Kickstarter should be starting soon too, I think, right?
Yeah, pretty sure it is. I'll probably be speaking to the guys soon about that. I'll follow up after this. Yeah, we should probably get them on the show. What I love about their work on this one is just all the accessories he comes with. Like the fact we've got this, like, you got the guns kind of like really cool looking. He's got this kind of like double blade handle thing, which is pretty dope. And then this laser sword, which obviously is going to have 2 deco hits on it. It's going to have this like really fancy blue, which kind of like lights up the edge of the sword, and then the black on the interior. It looks so cool. I think it's such a lovely little addition. And obviously the multiple heads is just a great touch, isn't it?
Yeah, that's true. It is. So
Removable helmet, 2 heads. Brilliant. Genius.
Yeah, it comes with a lot. That's one that I think I did order extras of. I'm having trouble remembering what I ordered.
I haven't got a clue. Even if I looked at that back kit now, I'd just be drowning in words.
That's not the one that there's the 5-pack of. I'm having trouble keeping track of what all I bought.
I do believe there is
available grindstone figures for sure.
Yeah, there's multiple grindstone figures. There's multiple 4-inch. There's multiple 6-inch. I'm sure there's. I think they've.
I just enjoy being surprised when the box shows up. I back the Kickstarter. Then when the backer kit came out, it's like, okay, add the other stuff, and then when it shows up, it shows up.
Exactly, and you'll be like, whoa, I didn't realize I ordered this much.
Right.
It comes in about 18 shipments. Now, one thing I will add, we record early on the day prior to when you guys see this, so we haven't been able to include any news on the Renegade Game Studios reveals for their Renegade Con Virtual, which is why I went live following the event to chat about the reveals from day one. You can check that out on our channel if you haven't already, and it's weird saying that when I haven't actually done it yet. So you'll be seeing this that we're doing now on Saturday, and by that time I'd have done the news burst live the day before. So a lot of work for me to do today.
So include a picture of that here.
Oh, you SOB.
You can't, though, because it doesn't take place until the future.
Yeah, but I can, because by the time I edit this, everyone's head's just exploded. The way that we do this, it's basically as big a head F as any storyline to any time travel show ever. Anyway, let's one more shout out. I will shout out James Kavanagh Jr. I've still got to speak to him about the unofficial G.I. Joe fan club. We've got to do that as well. I'm sorry, it's just been one of those things where I've got real busy real quick, and it's been really difficult to get these people on to talk to them. But James is on the list. Troy and the team at Grindstone are on the list. We'll be talking to those guys very soon, hopefully. It's just when I can be available to do it. I'm sorry, I'm just very unavailable at the moment. You know, we usually do like a little sign off where I'll talk about how we're in we support all these different kind of groups and all that kind of stuff, and I just wanted to kind of like say, it probably goes without saying in these episodes anymore where our allegiances lie, so I'm just kind of leave the links are in descriptions and everything like that if you guys want to kind of check those out. But I wanted to kind of add something, obviously, to that today. Last week, it was one of those things where we were kind of doing our episode and it kind of passed me by. But obviously, a lot is happening in the world at the moment. And it probably is obvious to everyone else what I'm about to talk about. Obviously Ukraine and the Russia situation. So obviously I just wanted to kind of say, while we have the platform, that, you know, our thoughts are with the Ukrainian people at this very, very difficult time. And I just wanted to, you know, make that clear and just make a little gesture, the smallest gesture we could possibly make on the show, just to say that obviously it's on our radar, like it is on everyone's radar, of course. And just wanted to say that, you know, it's a horrible situation, and we just hope we hope it gets a good resolution, because the bad resolution means that it's going to affect everyone in the world, not that it isn't already kind of doing so. So I just wanted to make that clear. Obviously, you know, our stance is with Ukraine, and on top of that, I will also throw a link in there for any kind of aid that, you know, you might want to throw that you can kind of, you know, help out with from an individual level, if you want to do so, of course. No pressure. But the links are in the description for those kind of things as well. Sorry, Pat, to talk on your behalf on that one. I know I've kind of ambushed you on that one, but I just wanted to throw that in there.
Fine.
I could see the cogs whirring, and I was like, and there's that other thing we haven't talked about this week.
I didn't know exactly. I wasn't sure what you were going to talk about.
That was my fault for just realizing at this moment. So yeah, like I said, our thoughts are out to the Ukrainian people at this terrible time, and that, yeah, and again, all of the usual things I say at this point. Links in the description if you want to support any of the you know, the kind of groups or the like in this situation, the situations. If you want to support any of those, they'll be in the links below. Right, that brings us to the end of the show. Somehow we have gone over an hour. I don't know how we do it. I really don't. But we have less to talk about, so we talk more. It's weird. Pat, mate, thank you for jumping on, man. I really appreciate it.
Thanks again for having me on.
Thanks to our patrons, our listeners, our viewers. All of you guys are doing great stuff at the moment, and I hope you're enjoying the lives, because we are churning them out. Hopefully you'd have checked us out for Renegade Game Studios. I'll do another live probably on Saturday after the second day recap. Busy weekend, but whatever, hey? Who cares? Right then, that brings us to the end of this episode. Thank you for watching the Full Force Weekly. Massive thank you to my awesome co-host, Patrick Notpicard Stewart. Version 3. See you next time. And as always, after version 3, version 1, version 2, version 3, Full Force. Like that. I changed it from a regular count to a version count.
I thought you were going to throw version 4 in to throw me off. That's what I thought was going to happen.
After all the versions of Snake Eyes. Oh my god, we'd be here for weeks, wouldn't we? Amazing.
And then we debate on whether or not Built to Roll should be included. But you didn't say Built to Roll, Chris. I still haven't shouted Full Force.
After version Built to Rule. Version 1. Oh, we'd be there for hours. We would be there for hours. Anyway, I'll end it there. Make sure you get involved with the discussion by liking, sharing and commenting on these videos, and as always you can keep up with the show after listening by following on Twitter @TheFullForce, liking the Facebook page facebook.com/TheFullForce, and if you would like to contact the show you can message us on either of those platforms with feedback and questions. We also have a Patreon page, so if you want to show your support for the show, see your name up in lights on these videos, or enjoy exclusive bonus content, then check out patreon.com/TheFullForce podcast, or click on the link on any of the posts this podcast appears in. Full Force.